Oh, what? Oh, hey, how you doing? There's nothing that people love more in life than overhand shuffles. So today I'm gonna show you guys some hot tips on this hot PigCake breaks it down episode. So don't go anywhere. I know a lot of you guys are gonna say, "Oh, I know everything there is to know about the overhand shuffle. What else do I need to know? I'm an expert." Well, you know what? You could go fuck yourself. You could go get a dick and fuck yourself, because you're gonna learn something here, even if you're a so-called expert cunt. So first thing is the how-to. So how to do an overhand shuffle. This is of course for the extreme beginners, and there's nothing wrong with being a beginner, because you got to be a beginner in everything in life in order to be someone. So there you go. So an overhand shuffle, what you're doing is you are grabbing, first of all, this fantastic T6i focus and making sure that this image looks crisp as fuck. So the mechanics here, you're gonna hold the deck in your right hand in this sort of weird position. Now I like to rest my forefinger here on the right edge of the deck just to provide some leverage. But this is how you're holding the deck. Now this thumb and this hand is going to come in and just take chunks off of the deck. You could either take chunks or you could take single cards. Usually this is the traditional sense of the shuffle. But taking away chunks gives the deck more of an actual mixeroonie. So that is the overhand shuffle in a nutshell. Either single cards or clumps of cards. But that's pretty much what it's a series of running cuts. It doesn't mix the deck up too much, but it mixes it up enough that the spectators get the impression that the deck is thoroughly mixed. Now, once you have this apparent perception that the deck is thoroughly mixed, you could begin to fuck them in the ass with methods that they have no idea how to do. So one of those initial methods and first things that you learn is known as the Ireland shuffle. The Ireland shuffle. Surely because the name of the person is something Ireland. The name escapes me. I'll put it in the description. However, the Ireland shuffle keeps the deck in relatively similar order. So let's say you have a deck of cards that you have split off between the blacks and the reds. You have in fact segregated this deck, much like in the 1990. So the deck is segregated between the reds and the blacks here, but you want to maintain this segregation. So you're going to do what's called the Ireland shuffle. I'm going to keep the deck face up for illustration purposes here. So you're going to hold the deck in this grip that we just talked about in the how-to. You're going to hold the deck and you're going to start taking off just a couple chunks. But once you get a handful of cards here, you're going to start running cards off singly in the hopes that you're going to run through that initial middle where the cards meet, and then you could start taking chunks off. Now, I know this is going to sound intimidating to those of you that are beginner PigCake cunts. However, once you get the hang of this, you do this with the cards face down. So you could just take off just a little bit of a chunk, then run cards singly until you feel comfortable and you feel sure that the colors are now, after you've run past the colors, and you get this point where all that's happened is you've essentially traded the top blacks for the bottom reds. So you've put the blacks on the bottom of the deck. Do as you may with that. But that's a very useful technique in out of this world tricks and other tricks that might fancy your noggin here. So if you maybe have a card picked here from the top, maybe you do one of these Ireland shuffles that you just had a pastry swine magician teach you. Then you have them put the card back in the deck on the top. I wonder what's going to happen here. But maybe that's the only card that's of a different color in the black half here. See, that's some simple stuff you could do with that. But it serves its purpose for out of this world trick. So that's the Ireland shuffle. Now, there's another thing that's important when you're learning about overhand shuffles, and that's stacking the deck. So let's say that you have a card here on top, the 5 of clubs, and you need exactly 12 cards on this. You could just run the card singly, but it's going to look stupid. So luckily for you, there's a smarter guy named Leonard Green who came up something called the Happy Birthday Shuffle. Now I want you to not confuse this with some sort of weird fetish. This is in fact a technique for making running cards and stacking the deck very, very simple. So all you got to do if you want to stack 12 cards in this is for each syllable of the song Happy Birthday, you're going to run one card off. This is of course going to take place in your head. If you sing it out loud, they might be privy to the method here. So you want to do this in your head. But notice, happy birthday to you is always going to give you exactly 6 cards. So if you put that on top and do one more, happy birthday to you, that card is now in the 13th position for whatever trick you might need, with a very clean and simple way of doing it that doesn't require just cutting off or running off 12 cards in a apparently haphazard fashion. So this is just a simplistic way of doing it. Happy birthday shuffle. Happy birthday to you. See, 6. Always 6. Just a hot tip. That's a hot tip right there. And if you needed less cards, you could just sing less of it. So if you needed 5 cards, you can just go happy birthday to, and then there's nobody that it's sung to. But now you have it in the 6th position wherever you need it. So that's the happy birthday shuffle here. Now I'm not gonna bother with in jogs and out jogs and all these techniques where you in jog a card, because I frankly don't use those. But what I do use are other techniques with this application here. Now the next thing here is, let's say you have a card that you deem important on top of the deck, or maybe a couple cards that you deem important on top of the deck, such as the aces. You could do something called a milk shuffle to position them in places that you want them to be. So let me show you what I mean here. What a milk shuffle is you're going to do the standard procedure here for the overhand shuffle, but you're going to put pressure with these fingers over here. What that does is that it's going to squeeze the top card here and the bottom card here at once. So if you continue running off, and let's say you have them call stop, you now have an ace on top. So if you happen to have the 3 aces here, you could do something particularly terrific here. If you place this packet down, do the same mechanics of the milk shuffle. So you're just squeezing the top and bottom cards. They call stop. They call stop again. And guess what? You have had them supposedly cut to the aces with relatively no effort, and all you did was an overhand shuffle. Whoa, what? Overhand shuffles, they're not so fucking stupid now, aren't they? So that's the milk shuffle. That's a very useful technique, not just for controlling, obviously, those cards, but let's say you happen to have a selected card to the top. Oh, how would you control it to the top? See, I'm already ahead of you. Something known as the Mahatma control, which is one of my favorite controls. That you, let's say you have a card selected here. We have any random old card here selected. In this case, it's going to be the old Queen of Clubs. A sexual card by any other means. This card, of course, is going to be placed in the middle of the deck. The spectator is shown the card, and the card is supposedly shuffled into the deck here very thoroughly. But if you know in PigCake, you know that card is obviously going to be on top of the deck. This is a very simple control, and it allows you not only to control the card, apparently shuffle it, but it's a hot peek. So you could peek at the card as well. So let's pretend we'll leave the Queen of Clubs here face up. As you square up the deck, you're going to put your grandmother's favorite finger right above it to have that pinky break right there. So now all you got to do is lift up all the cards above the break, swivel this over to the side, and do an overhand shuffle. And that card is essentially controlled right there on the top. Now, of course, you don't want to do one overhand shuffle, because then they're going to be like, hey, that was not a sufficient mix of the cards. Maybe you should mix up the cards some more. Or here's where your old friend, the milk shuffle, comes in, because you squeeze that card on top, and guess what? The card stays on top. Oh, how do you peek at the card, you say? I hear you asking, in whatever country you're from that's not the United States, or we have liberties and rights. Oh, I'll answer you. See, when you do the milk shuffle, as I'm shuffling the cards, all I'm doing with these fingers is pushing that card up just ever so slightly so I could peek at the index as I'm shuffling the cards. See, it's face down there. So if I leave it face up, you see if I'm looking over here, I could get a peek at the queen of clubs and maybe hold hands with them and then say, oh, just think of your card. It's the queen of clubs. And look, I'll even cut to it right there. See it? Queen. I cut to it and you thought of it. And now we should copulate and make wonderful pig pastry babies. So that's that. Now, as far as the last thing here that I want to show you guys, it's not only it's a full deck false shuffle. So it's not just controlling a couple cards. It's a full deck false shuffle using the overhand shuffle here. So it appears to be a regular shuffle, but in fact, it's actually a complete deck false shuffle. So if you had the cards here face up and face down, it's actually going to be a little bit more apparent that this is a false shuffle. So it keeps the deck in the same order. So for this, what you're going to do is you're going to hold the deck in the standard overhand position here. Now you're going to come and just grab a chunk. Now this chunk would usually stay here. However, for this false shuffle, it's not going to stay there. What's going to happen is that you're going to use your left hand to jam this packet up here so it could be held by the thumb and the ring finger of the right hand. So that's all that's happening. So once you cut off a chunk here, that's getting jammed in there. Let me drop some Western Saskatchewan, West Indies, India towing company slow motion here for you guys. PigCake right there. That's some production value. Production value here. So you might be a little bit afraid of having such a wide gap for this. This is not for demonstration purposes only. This is actually as wide as gap as I use in the actual technique here. But because the cards are in motion, usually that gap is not going to be detected. When I mean usually, I mean never. So once you do this first part and this packet is jammed, you're just going to go and repeat that over and over again. So you grab another packet and it's jammed up there next to that packet. Grab another packet and it's jammed over there. Grab another packet and jam it over there. So all you're doing is just cycling through the deck. Once you get to the end here, this packet goes on top, and that is a full deck false shuffle. Now, once you get good at this, what you could do is just essentially go halfway through the shuffle, let this bottom half fall in your hand, and just drop this in the back here. So it looks like it's a haphazard cut, and it doesn't really matter where the cards are, but it keeps the deck in a full deck order. Now, the good thing about this is that it's not a neat looking shuffle. It's not like the cards are pristinely shuffled in one way. The cards look messy, and that's the nature of this false cut, which is what makes it such a convincing false cut. So with that, hopefully you now have some techniques that you could take to become one step closer to being less socially isolated, using magic as the lubrication for these techniques. So that's, you practice that. You do all the things. Get the shirt, get the exclusive stuff. There's a Patreon. I dropped a hot mental trick on Patreon today. You could check that out if you want your penis to be big. Do the like, the submarine, and I'm gonna go figure out ways to live in a submarine but not have to deal with the consequences of unwanted sexual thoughts.
Again, when I see you 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 again.